Snow had fallen for 6 unrelenting days, gentle and slow, floating like quiet prayers from heaven. The prairie was buried beneath it, the earth still, bones of the land silenced. Even the fence posts resembled discarded ghosts standing watch in the cold. Wind tore at the windows of Jedediah Boone's ranch house, shrieking like an old ghost. But within, the fire snapped in its stone hearth, and the lantern, low and golden, smoldered steady, as it had always done. Jed lit it every evening, just as he curried his horse, just as he inscribed names of long-dead cattle into the barn rafters. Not out of habit, but out of memory, out of a commitment he still honored. A commitment he had given so many years before, to someone now lying under the cottonwood crosses. Her voice could have been silenced, but not his loyalty. No one had passed that ground for weeks. The path had disappeared under drifts of snow and heavy, hurting quiet. Even the crows had departed for parts south. So when Jed saw movement, 2 figures, dark and unsteady against the eye-blinding white, he stood stock still. He'd thought at first they were wolves, but then one of them stumbled, and the other caught her up. Human, barefoot, clad in tattered deer hide and threadbare shawls. Strangers. Jed didn't hurry, didn't speak, simply stood on his porch, allowing the cold to seep through his coat. The lantern at his side capered in the wind, its flickers of light playing across their faces. Eyes wide and watchful like frightened deer. They didn't come forward. Not then. And Jed didn't invite them in, not really. He merely extended his hand in a slow, silent motion. Neither a welcome nor a warning. Just enough. The older one had seen it, nodded cautiously, and led the younger girl to the barn. He opened the door for them. They slipped in. Jed remained outside. Let the snow seep into his boots as he glared down the vacant path behind them. Waiting, watching, wondering if anyone would show. Anyone mean enough to pursue 2 barefoot girls in a snowstorm. But nothing materialized. Only wind, only stillness, the kind so old it was near to sacred. In the barn it was smoky, wet hide and straw. The 2 women crouched next to the cow, who moved but didn't complain. Jed set a tin cup of coffee on the stall post. No words yet. He wasn't sure they'd know them if he said them. The older woman accepted the cup. Her hands were raw and cracked. A pale pink scar ran across the bottom of her lip. Her dark eyes didn't plead. They sized him up, cool, reserved. She didn't say thank you. Didn't spill a drop either. When he was leaving, the younger one, not more than a child, murmured something. Her voice so soft that it almost didn't reach him. The older girl didn't interpret. Jed exited the barn and left the front door of his home ajar. Just in case. That evening, sleep didn't arrive. He sat by the fire, shaping a cedar stick into nothing. The house creaked its way around him. Snow muffled the world. But still, he couldn't shake hearing that whisper. By morning, they were on his porch, shivering, scrawny shoulders huddled together under soggy shawls. He opened the door before they could knock. Spoke not, a mere nod toward the fire. They entered, 3 hours before their hands ceased to shake. He noticed now that the younger one had a limp. The older girl guided her into the chair and sat cross-legged on the floor. Jed boiled beans and cut into the remains of his bread. They ate with deliberation, slowly. Not desperate but cautious, like women who'd had to struggle for a morsel. Still, he asked nothing. Let silence convey. The following morning, the fever passed. He had left water in a basin on the porch, and when he came back from chopping wood, the older girl already had bathed her sister and had the cloths drying. Jed leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, observing. She looked at him for the first time, not out of fear, out of strength. Then she stood, walked towards him, and finally spoke. "Chenoa," she said. He blinked. She jabbed her finger toward the girl. "My sister, Tisa." He nodded. "Jed." She hesitated. "Jed." The name felt odd in her mouth. She tried again. "Jedediah." That one held. Later that afternoon, as he saddled the mare to ride into town, Chenoa walked halfway to the gate after him. Snow had begun again, thin flakes that settled like lace on the braid running down her back. "You come back?" she asked. He gazed down at her, eyes unyielding, inscrutable, then nodded once. "I light the lantern every night," he said. She moved her head. "Why?" Jed didn't respond. He simply rode off into the tempest. The general store was colder than the prairie, and it had nothing to do with the weather. The chill there was in the glances, in the talk. As Jed Boone walked past the counter, Clovis Hatch, the blacksmith, leaned in with narrowed eyes. "You know who they are?" he muttered. Jed didn't answer. Clovis spat on the wooden floor. "Comanche, I'd wager. Runaways. Or traded girls. Either way. Trouble." Jed did not say a word. Simply paid for what he had come for: flour, salt, dried meat, and a tin of cherry tobacco. The shopkeeper raised an eyebrow as he rung it up. "Expectin' company, Boone?" Jed shrugged. "Depends how long the snow lasts." At the ranch, meanwhile, Chenoa was waiting by the gate once again. She made no inquiries about the tobacco, but took the sack from him and slipped the tin into the cupboard as if it were holy. That night, Jed went out onto the porch and saw something small, but different. The main room curtain had been patched. Not new, sewn meticulously. Tight, clean stitches. A work done by one who once knew what comfort was, and perhaps wanted to recapture it. Jed said nothing, but later, he draped his deceased wife's old scarf on the hook beside the door. Blue, soft with age and warm. The following morning, Chenoa put it on. She cooked beans by the fire while he split wood. Tisa, more subdued now, sat huddled by the fire, reading out of a crumpled school primer Jed had never even known they owned. The house was no longer a tomb. He caught himself lingering by the table longer than he needed to, just to hear the easy cadence of breathing that wasn't his. That evening, once Tisa had slept, Chenoa came out into the snow. It complained against the eaves and nuzzled her naked shoulders. The blue scarf stuck to her like memory. Jed followed quietly. "You quiet," she said. "So are you." She nodded. "This, safe place." He was unsure. "It's near the world, but safer than most." She came to stand with him. "You alone, long time. 12 winters." She exhaled slowly. Her tone became gentle. "I recall fire in my home. Stew smell. My mum would sing." Her sentences broke. Then Trey arrived. "Not dear. Girls." Jed did not budge. "My uncle traded us. For ammunition." He turned his face away. "But you," she said. "You never asked. You never stared." "I've witnessed too much to stare." She extended her hand. Just touched his hand with her fingertips. "You think?" "We remain." Jed replied not with words. But that evening, the front door was left open once more. 3 days went by. On the 4th, Sheriff Arland Crowley rode up while Jed was repairing the gate. Chenoa was standing on the porch, arms crossed. Crowley wasn't an inhumane man, but he wasn't one for leniency either. "Town's restless," he said, swinging down off his horse. "Says you're hiding Comanche girls." Jed didn't flinch. "They're not hostages. They're guests." The sheriff looked toward Chenoa. "You claiming her?" Jed hesitated. "I ain't driving her out into that. That's not what I asked." Jed's jaw flexed. "She's mine." Crowley stood, his eyes steady on Jed's. Then he nodded slowly. "Then make it official. Before Clovis gets clever." He rode off without speaking another word. Jed went back in the direction of Chenoa. She stepped down from the porch, standing in front of him. "Your law says marry." "It does." She reached up, unwrapped the blue scarf, and held it out. "Then you give this to me again. Like man gives gift." Jed grabbed the scarf, hands shaking, wrapped it back around her neck. They never told each other they loved one another. But it was there in the movement. Still, weathered, unbroken. The lantern burned that night as always. But he wasn't alone this time watching it. Chenoa rested her head on his shoulder. Tisa slept beneath a quilt made by strange hands, and the wind did not keen like sorrow. It sang, like a hymn. If this tale awakened something within your heart, Don't let it go out into the darkness. Click like so others can see the lantern still aglow. Subscribe to ride further into forgotten stories of quiet redemption, second chances, and wild prairie love. Let us know in the comments. Did you ever leave a light on, hoping someone would come back? Because sometimes, the softest stories leave the loudest echoes. More soul-worn Western tales are coming soon. Stay close to the fire.